My ancestors are on my back right now. My African ancestors, my indigenous ancestors, my European ancestors, which means my ancestors are on your back right now because our ancestors are all the same.
Come on.
I'm really, really proud of the youth. They're going to be our salvation. They will save us. I've only been in Venice for 17 years. All three of my children were born and raised here. Myself, I grew up in New York City, Detroit, London, Atlanta, and a few other places. I was thinking about what I might say up here in relationship to black liberation, to our brother George Floyd, to all the other brothers and sisters who have fallen under the guns, the batons, the chokeholds, under the foot of the power structure, under the weight and the might of the systems in a country that might not exist as it does today without our free labor. When I sat with it, and as I stand here now looking at you all, the beautiful diaspora of faces gathered, I really bounced back and forth between a few different things: anger, frustration, and rage on one side, and hope, community, and love on the other side. And I'm probably gonna land somewhere in the middle when it's all done, but bear with me right now because I woke up a little bit angry today. My father was in the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. He left a good job in Chicago to go down south because, as he told me, he had no choice. He would always tell me, Chaka, our people are in a 10,000-year struggle. And as I watch the 100 years of our collective trauma unwinding and unraveling these last 10 days, I finally understand what he meant. We have no choice. Freedom is a constant struggle. I was in college when Rodney King was beaten, and I would have sworn to you that things would be different 30 years later. But I was young, and I was naive, and maybe I didn't quite understand the full arc of our people's history, but it feels like we're still in the same struggle today. When I was a little kid in Georgia, we marched in Georgia and North Carolina while the KKK stood directly on the streets across from us in full robes and pointed hoods, rifles peeking out from underneath. As a little boy, these are my memories of the South. And this week, I watch as certain members of the New York Police Department knocking people down while they flash white supremacy gang signs in uniform. I think of the 10,000-year struggle that my father spoke of. When I was in Santa Monica last week with some of you, dodging rubber bullets and getting tear gassed in Santa Monica, California in 2020 with no warning and unprovoked, kneeling with a group of peaceful protesters by the Pacific Ocean, exercising our constitutional rights, I think of my dad's words of the 10,000-year struggle. As I stood on 3rd and Fairfax with my 16-year-old daughter and her friends, hemmed in on three sides while we demanded accountability for the murder of one of our own, and the LAPD demanded we disperse, hands on guns, batons drawn, tear gas cocked and loaded, I understand why the fight might be a long one. When I stood at the Federal Building a few days ago, staring down the lines of the National Guard, I wondered where were they when I was handcuffed in the middle of Hollywood Boulevard against the side of my car, pleading my innocence and held against my will because I fit a description. And I knew our struggle wasn't going anywhere. As the footage continually comes in from peaceful protesters across the country being brutalized, and when I watched Donald Trump stand up and tell Americans that he wishes for a return to the days when protesters, and I am quoting, left on stretchers like they used to, I know our fight is 10,000 years young.
Wow. Free! Yes! Come on!
I don't really want to go into a history lesson because my man Sonny's going to drop some knowledge on you, and some brothers and sisters that have been here before with some history, although it is as clear to me that a lot of us need a history lesson. But I would like to recognize that where we are today in many ways makes a lot of sense. Racist roots grow rotten fruit. To steal a thing I saw from a little sign from a girl from Venice up at Pan Pacific the other day. Cornel West said the other day on CNN that the social experiment of America has failed. But today I wonder if actually it is succeeding. I actually wonder if the founding fathers might be getting a little piece maybe, of what they wanted? Since the ideal of freedom and justice for all had the ominous inscription that branded us 3/5 of a human being, since the land that we stand on is stained with blood and broken promises, ripped and stolen from the long and beautiful histories of the indigenous people who called it home for thousands of years, since the very institution that made America the richest country on the planet, slavery, is the one whose legacy has now created the deepest forms of racism and racist culture, so deep, y'all, that we have become numb to the almost daily videos we see of death and destruction in our neighborhoods, of Karen running around screaming that my existence threatens her, and of another grown man begging for his life, saying, please, I can't breathe. We stand today in the memory of George Floyd, his senseless murder, but it's more than that. It's the resistance that is rising up from his last breath.
Come on.
Don't talk to me today about why the National Guard should protect the gentrification on the now soulless Abbott Kinney Boulevard. Don't talk to me about it, not today. From potential looters, without talking about why desperation is so deep that people have taken any means necessary to claw and scratch for their little piece of the pie. Don't talk to me today about slavery ending 150 years ago unless you want to recognize the next 100 years of the stain in American history when black people were brutalized and terrorized by legal lynchings, forced segregation, redlining, look it up, the GI Bill, look it up, mass incarceration, look it up, the war on drugs, look it up, poll taxes, look it up, and on and on. Don't talk to me about how I should be satisfied with the right to vote when all the politicians are beholden to multinational corporations and none of them will hire me anyway if my name is Tyrese or Lakeisha or Chaka. Don't talk to me today about your businesses being looted until you are ready to look at me and tell me why you think I'm a criminal when I walk into your store following me and my friends like we don't belong. Don't talk to me about LeBron James and Beyonce making it unless you want to talk about the widening gap between rich and poor and the economic structures that purposely and intentionally hold black and brown people from accumulating the massive wealth that exists in other communities. See the previous notes. Definitely do not talk to me about how the American dream can be realized until our schools are funded equally and until poor black and brown children have equal access to preschool education. Do not talk to me about pulling myself up by the bootstraps because it's the American way until we can get access to some fresh fruits and vegetables in inner city communities, food that will nourish our minds and bodies in a way that doesn't leave us depleted more and more every year. Don't talk to me about it. Put me in Erewhon and a Whole Foods down in the hood and drop the prices. Better yet, come down there and build me some gardens. Don't talk to me about COVID only affecting people with pre-existing conditions unless you understand that pre-existing conditions exist because poor people and people of color, look it up, have intentionally been herded into parts of cities where the smokestacks and the garbage dumps and the landfills and the toxins are. And until y'all want to recognize that quality health care in America is currently a privilege of the rich and not a right of the poor. Sorry, don't talk to me about black politicians and Latinx legislators until you want to talk about ICE and my brothers and sisters at our borders today. who are being split from their mothers and fathers today and denied their basic human rights, just as African slaves were split apart, bought and sold for the price of groceries. Y'all see I'm a little bit on the angry side right now, but
Be angry.
I got a couple minutes.
I'm angry too. I'm angry too.
I'm gonna take a deep breath. I do circles at Mark Twain Middle School and Venice High School, and we sit in circles and we look at each other. And we talk to each other. And we don't always agree, but we agree to talk to each other. I'm gonna give you a little piece of love right now. We are a resilient people. Make no mistakes about it, sister. We have resisted from the beginning of time. We resisted on the shores of Africa. We resisted at St. Clair. Look it up. We resisted at Little Bighorn. We resisted at the Stono River. We resisted with Shaka Zulu. We resisted with Nat Turner, Carlotta Walls, Malcolm X, Ella Baker, Harriet Tubman, and a whole bunch of other names that nobody knows who they are. We have a history of resilience, and we will continue it. I said in the beginning that the youth is going to bring us to a new place, that they are our salvation. They are going to write a new story that is centered around our oneness. Our deep desire to be in healthy relationships with each other, with our environment, and with the world. As I have walked the streets the last 10 days, I am blown away by the collective strength of Generation Z. It's the last alphabet, it's the last letter in the alphabet because the gig is over with Generation Z. They don't need to put their glasses on to see the phone. The gig is over. They have taken this tragedy and turned it into an opportunity to speak on everything that sickens our country, and a lot of things sicken our country. Although a lot of us are very, very comfortable, our country is sick. Racism, sexism, classism, gender inequalities, homophobia, xenophobia, religious tolerance, and any other phobia that you can think of, these kids is standing up. I'm almost done. Let us not forget, it was not their choices that got us to where we are, but it will be their decisions that take us to a kinder, gentler, a return to the world as it was before it was, a more compassionate, tolerant, and loving world. The American dream as it was meant to be. Make no mistake about it, these kids, they're out here talking about revolution. They're talking about dismantling the systems that are embedded in the American story and the systems that are creating our suffering. And the students will be the leaders. So I have hope. I will leave with hope. I will leave with hope that all of y'all in this crowd will walk away from here and look each other in the eyes. Look me in the eye when I am walking down the street. And we will continue to peel back the layers and layers that are suffocating our humanity. We will get to the worms and the rotten rind, and we will together expose the new story, the story of love. I love you, George Floyd. I love you. I love you, Breonna Taylor. I love you, sis. I love you, Eric Garner. I love you, Trayvon Martin. I love you, Pedro Villanueva. I love you, Latasha Harlins. I love you, Ahmaud Arbery. I love you, black people. I love you, brown people. I love you, red people. I love you, poor people. I love you, people. I love all y'all. Racist roots grow rotten fruit. So I need everybody here to leave, dig it up, and plant some new stuff. Now is the time, after these dudes get arrested and after they get convicted, the unraveling will take a long time. Let us not stop until we see the fruits of our digging. Let us not stop until we get it right. We are America. We are America. Let's go and get it right. One love. One love. One love. One love. One love. One love. Just one love. Just one kind of love. Love. Peace out.